Alright, so hopefully we are live. Alright. Alright, so today what we'll be going through is my personal experiences with Path of Exile, all the different things that I've learned from the game, basically how I've made it to where I am in the game at the moment, all the different characters and different experiences and certain things that I've had have learnt from playing this game. It's been a huge journey. Have a crap ton of characters. This one's sort of just a meme name. You might get the reference. Bunch of different characters. Highest level character that I've gotten myself to is, I'd say, yeah, level 89. The main character that I started with was this EK Nova character, which is primarily just a clear speed character, which I really actually couldn't progress in maps with because it didn't have any bossing potential. Although you can use a cast while channeling glacial cascade when using that particular when attacking bosses. So that became a way to kill bosses. Yeah, so these are all my characters. Over time, I started when I first started playing PoE. I looked at build guides primarily, which is what a lot of people do when they start playing the game. They look at build guides, they try to find the most effective build, and then, or whatever that may suit them, and then they go at it. So you'd play something like, I don't know, you go Spark, or you'd go for whatever, you know, most popular YouTuber tells you does the most clear speed and is the most effective. Um, that's how I started, just sort of thinking, okay, what can I just smash this game with, and just what's the best build to go for. Of course, when I first started, I went for, I was wondering which was my very first character. I think I went with a Sunder build. Yeah, I definitely went with the Sunder build. I think that character is deleted now. But yeah, first build that I ever went for was Sunder, and I didn't look at a guide, which was awesome. Which is one of the main things that I'd like to talk about um, in this entire video, is just going over why it's better to experience a game from your own perspective, create your own unique build based on the little things that you find in the game, um, that tend to that, that that make you feel better, um, based on what you find in the game. Like if you find a bow, like it does a certain amount of damage, and then you just keep scaling that up and min-maxing it until it goes better and better. So um, that's the way I recommend playing the game. A lot of people sort of look at a build guide, they just look at all the rare items, required uniques and things like that. They just use those items, and then they're trapped in this little like area where they have to follow whatever the guide tells them to, and then when they find a good item, they don't know that it's a good item because they're just saying, oh, well, the guide tells me to get this particular item, so if I am to do that, then it's going to make my character better. So primarily my favorite character, um, that I've experience from a build guide has been Demi's Flying Purple People character, which is a Slayer that uses Lacerate. So if I go to my characters here in Standard and Delve as well, I've made one in Delve. This is my Slayer. It can do everything. So it can do lab, it can do maps extremely fast. All you have to do is get some attack speed on it. Optimize your leap slam, so more attack speed means you do more DPS. You have faster leap slam, so which means you clear faster. So say if you're at a point in time with the build where you think, okay, my clear speeds, well, what I'll do is I probably just won't show you the character, but this is just run down as the tree. If you just type in on YouTube Demi Flying Purple People, you'll find it. Yeah, the character that we're gonna level during this stream is just this one here. So we'll just jump on that now. So this is a build that I decided to come up with. It's gonna be a yeah, what was I saying before this? Yeah, so just go to hideout. What was I saying? Yeah, so Flying Purple People, Lacerate Slayer can do all content. It can do labyrinth, maps. It's really good at bosses as well. You can sustain your life pool by leeching and do a shit ton of DPS as well. So, although after a while, if you play it, the only downside to the build that I found from personal experience is that it is extremely, it can become extremely repetitive and boring, and it sort of turns you off after a while. Because all the clear speed builds, like, you get all the crit shatters and certain things like that that make it feel really good. I'll get into the build that I'm doing at the moment in a second. Just trying to see and bring up the chat here. Alright, we've got the chat there, so that's good. Yeah, so, yeah, Flying Purple People, really good. A bit difficult on leveling, in comparison to something like Blade Vortex, because you have to use like Leap Slam, and Leap Slam, for my personal experience, has been kind of lackluster, because sometimes you can get stuck on crevices, and it really doesn't feel as good. In terms of movement, I'd say, well, my favorite movement skill is just by using a Pathfinder. So this is my character at the moment, my new character that I've been leveling. Basically, it's a Blade Vortex Pathfinder. So, the great thing about it, you proc a skill like Blade Vortex, and you proc your movement flasks, and you literally, I'll just turn this game down so I don't hear it over myself. Yeah, you just proc this skill, and then that's all you have to do. And then you just tap your movement speed flask, and then you just move super fast around the map. And currently, what level is this character at the moment? Level 26. Yeah, so currently level 26. Extremely easy to level a character like this, because you literally, like Blade Vortex, it scales quite well, and there's really not a lot to it. If you have a tabular, then you're pretty much set. Two axioms are really good because they grant crit. They have a bunch of extra damage and cast speed, so then you can proc your Blade Vortex very quickly. And yeah, so with shield charge, you have to constantly press the button to shield charge, whereas with a Pathfinder, or in comparison to, because you'd compare this build to an Elementalist with Tri-Heralds. So the way in which this, in my personal perspective, makes this better is because you don't have to keep pressing shield charge, basically. You just proc your flask. Pathfinders, I think, have the best movement speed in the game. Either Pathfinder or the other Ascendancy. Let's see what this is. Princess. Yeah, so you get all this movement speed. You hit one button, you proc your Blade Vortex, and then you just clear. And it's very effective. So I'm going to use this with impulses, so that when I'm just flying around the maps with my movement speed, I'll be able to just destroy packs. With a decoy totem, it'll also work on bosses. So, and it's also used as a lab farmer. So it should be optimal for all content. And as you see, this is just how the build works. You get increased duration, so you don't have to proc your Blade Vortex too much. And you just proc a flask. It's really good for delves because you literally, like, this is primarily a delving build as well. Plenty of movement speed, plenty of decent clear, and it can also deal with situations where you have to fight a boss every now and then. You just proc a decoy totem. The boss, majority of the time, will just look at that, and then you can just kill them with Blade Vortex, which is quite easy. We'll see how the build goes. I haven't seen a guide on it on YouTube, so I thought I'd make a video for it. But yeah, this is just primarily based off thinking, okay, so what's a really easy skill and what's a very quick, satisfying character to play while mapping. So I put the two together and thought, well, at first I thought, okay, RF Pathfinder, but then I thought, okay, well, you can't really crit with that, I don't think, because you have to pour all these points into life. You're staring at this ring that, if you stare at it for long enough, you look at a piece of paper, you've got this blurry, floaty thing. I don't know. I mean, personal preference, I don't really like staring at a glowing ring constantly. I find that Blade Vortex is a lot easier on the eyes in comparison. You can buy like MTXs for it. I don't know if that makes it feel any better while staring at it. But yeah, personal preference, Blade Vortex, just got to proc it a few times. And from what I've seen with certain streamers like Rise QT, he started off as RF in Incursion, and then he decided to switch to Blade Vortex because you're able to crit with that, and there's a lot more damage involved, I guess. But yeah, he got to level 100 quite easily with this particular playstyle. But it really starts progressing. To get on to another point, which I wanted to touch, that I mentioned at the start of the video, was that When you start off playing Path of Exile, um, you sort of like get into the trend of looking at YouTube videos and things like that. I entirely suggest for you not to do that, for you to start a character entirely based on personal preference. So basically think, okay, what skill feels good? Find an item. Okay, that item is better than the current item that I already have, based on what you've read from that item, right? So you read the items, find out what's good about them. You look at a flask, for example, you say, okay, so movement speed, increased duration. So if you think about how that works, when you proc it, I mean, you've got that first stat there, 40% increased movement speed, and then it lasts longer. So, I mean, you want that, right? You want at least 3 of them, especially if you have enough gear to sustain survivability that you can just sacrifice all of that to move faster through the game, as well as certain things like the main thing I see a lot of people missing, especially when they look at build guides and then they start taking themselves away from that guide, thinking, okay, now I'm going to start optimizing this character myself. They don't see that, for example, Blade Vortex is a spell. It's not an attack. So if you're planning to, I don't know, if you're in your tree and you level something with attacks, so that's not going to help our Blade Vortex at all. Attack speed, so that's primarily attacks. So this will only help shield charge if you use it. So if I was to get attack speed, it wouldn't help my character at all. The only thing that would help my character is movement speed, crit, life regen because I'm not Vile packed. Don't get life regen if you're Vile packed either. I see a lot of people doing that. Flasks, being a pathfinder, great. So things like that, just because I find that if you follow a build guide and you get into it, and then you start branching off that build guide and you close the tab, you close the Internet Explorer, you think, okay, I'm going to do this myself now because I'm beyond what this guide has got to teach me, then you haven't learnt from the very beginning of the game what you need to do with your character. You've started off on a guide and you've cookie cut everything that you've seen. So I find that, because when I started with Path of Exile, apart from my Sunder build, I started just saying, okay, that looks pretty good, I'm going to do that. Or like Ziz has got a EK Nova that he's just destroying everything with. Obviously the most logical thing is to do whatever he's doing because he plays the game for a living, right? So why not do exactly whatever the hell he's doing, to be more optimal, to learn more about the game. And you do learn by playing from a different perspective. You actually do learn quite a lot, but you don't learn certain things from a different perspective. You also need that other perspective. So I feel like it's really important to start off a character, complete blank slate, don't know shit about the game, come into it and just say, okay, I've got this character. What do I want to use? Okay, I want to use Sunder. What does that do? Let's read the skill. Okay, it's an attack. It's AoE based or whatever. Will it work with bleed? Experiment a bit, Try maybe like a bleed gem. Because when you use like a gem here, you can see that active skills there on the left, right? It tells you whether or not it works with that skill, right? It didn't used to do it. There wasn't a feature for that before. A lot of people would simply throw a skill together, not knowing if it actually supports it or not. Know what I'm selling now? haven't even read the stats on this one. Crit, life, strength, tributes. Cool. You can probably craft another res on that. It's actually really good. But yeah, experiment with the game. I find that there is an extremely large amount of build guides out there that focus entirely on clear speed potential rather than bossing. And for a new player to get into that, they're not always going to be fully aware that what you're showing them is going to be something that they can use to complete the game with, because it's just not going to be something like that unless you're using all your currency to buy maps to then not kill bosses. Otherwise you're going to end up dying a lot. So I tend to see a lot of people falling for the clear speed builds that are all on YouTube. Let's talk about something else. Talk about the characters I've played with. So when I started delving, I started delve thinking, okay, I'm gonna do a necro. Because I thought, okay, necros, they're sort of jack of all trades. If you want clear speed, do that as well. If you want to kill bosses, SRS will just delete them. They've added new minion gems and stuff like that, so I thought, okay, this is going to be good, right? I 6-linked I think it was like level like 20 or something. I 6-linked what are they called? Let's look for that rare stuff actually. I sold it though. Let's see. I 6-linked it in literally. See if I can find it. It's got like a skull on the top of it, but it's one of the main ones for SRS. So I'm gonna get this page to load. Okay, so Pledge of Hands was one that I was going to go for SRS, and there's also Femerus of the Saints. I 6-linked that, and then I think I sold it for about a couple X or something, because I got bored of Minion, pretty much. I got to like level 89 or something, and then I just got bored of it. Like, I didn't want to do it anymore. There's a lot of clicking involved. You got a flame dash, you got to hold for the SRS, you got to proc all your auras. There's a lot of different like if you're a minion build, like you're using every single one of these options here. You might even be swapping out options for different ones, so there's a lot of different things involved. Which other builds? See, I started with Minion, got bored of Minion, went on to Reeve Blade Flurry. Went from Reeve Blade Flurry to Lacerate Slayer. What have I done in this league? Let's just have a look. Started with Necro, 85. Tried Guardian. New build with minions where you can summon them. Dominating Blow. Consecrated Path. Tried that playstyle. got bored of it. It was really good, really, really fun. Definitely go back to it. But I got bored of it. It just it felt really balanced. Like it just felt really, really nice and smooth, and you can just walk through the game and just destroy things as you pass through it. And but it just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like going for a walk in the park sort of thing. So I got a bit bored of it. Um, Went from that to, I think from that I went to Occultist, which is Death's Oath, which is actually a really interesting build. It's pretty much, Pox has a YouTube guide on it. You basically just run through maps. It deals chaos damage in an AoE. It's like RF, but you don't get the annoying ring around you. And it deals chaos damage over time. You can scale damage over time with jewels, and it just does a shit ton of damage. Um, I strongly recommend, if you want a clear speed build where you literally do not press a button and you can watch like a movie on the side or whatever and just get a shit ton of currency, this build's really good. It's Death's Oath Occultist by Pox. Just type that in on YouTube. Find the video guide for it. It has a bunch of required uniques, so it's pretty easy to get the currency for it. It's probably around an Exalt for the whole thing. If you're lucky, probably 50 chaos. But yeah, item prices for this have gone down heaps, so it's probably way cheaper now. I went from that. This is my discharge character, which I'm taking a look at. Primarily, discharge is a clear speed build. I wouldn't say it's a build that is optimal for bosses. So I'd almost say that Auto Bomber is better than Discharge in terms of how it feels and how good it actually feels. Discharge feels really good when when you have that MTX. It makes you, I don't know, it just feels really good when you're playing it in comparison to an Auto Bomber where you just fly around the map and things die. So I went from that to Slayer. Lacerate, that's my Reeve, which I've sort of given up on because I got into the Templar Ascendancy, and I thought, well, I mean, going Templar, maybe it's probably better to go a mixture between Slayer and Crit, so Assassin Slayer with Ascendant. This Reeve Blade Flurry goes really well with Crit. And then I wanted to do and then I was pushing myself to do what's this build called? It's a Poet's Pen. Just look it up. See if I can find it. Volatile Dead. Trying to do that. Didn't have the currency for it, so it's just sitting there for now. Yeah, I wanted to mess around with a bit of Volatile Dead. It looks interesting. Don't know how it'll go with Templar endgame though. A lot of people are starting to opt out of Templar with Volatile Dead nowadays. They're more pushing towards a cultist. So right now, yeah, so what I was saying with Volatile Dead. Yeah, so a lot of people just opting out of Templar altogether for some reason. I don't know why they are. Pretty much just going for just thinking of multiple things at once here. Yeah, pretty much just going for a occultist just for the energy shield and stuff, which just blows my mind. I don't know why you would do that. Because like Assassin has, or Templar has, if I go to the PoE planner, I'm pretty sure crit is what you go for in these types of builds, right? So you get spell damage if you cast recently, so that's Volatile Dead. Attack damage if you cast a spell recently, it's Volatile Dead. Attack speed if you've attacked recently, so it starts to go into the attack. So that's more, that doesn't really help too much. So then you've got a bunch of crit and things like that. So I'd say maybe Templar's better. But yeah, a lot of people just going occultist so that they can deal with bosses and things like that. I mean, if you're going that route, you might as well go Slayer, Leech, I guess. But yeah, what are we looking at? Yeah, so this character, what I'm doing at the moment is just making my way to Elemental Equilibrium and Elemental Overload. I'm going to start using a, whatchamacallit, Orb of Storms to proc that. And yeah, that'll be my boss damage. So I can get my lab finished. I'm going to get Pathfinder and going to go for movement speed first so that I finish my leveling way quicker. And then I'll start to get like flasks, flask stuff or whatever. But yeah. So I guess that was my rant. I haven't really got much else to say. That was probably everything I wanted to get off my chest. Yeah, so, I mean, if you want to stick around, I'm going to be leveling this character for the rest of this video. Yeah, and just rambling a bit more, I guess, if you want to stick around with that. Otherwise, if you're happy with what you've already seen, feel free to tune out, because I just covered the first part of, I guess, how you should start playing the game, which is still entirely up to you. But I think it's good to know that that it's good to be aware that certain build guides on the internet will take you in a direction where you don't want to go, and you may want to start playing the game or certain aspects of the game that only the build guide shows you, and it will cause you to lose track of what things will actually improve your character. So like if you think, okay, like maybe this isn't even working on my character, right? Like how would you know? Like if you look at this, you got some cold damage, right? That's great for, like, because it's a spell, right? Then you got some evasion, like, because that's what our character is. That's cool. Cold res, 50% of physical damage converted to cold damage. Now, when I first read that stat, I had no clue what it meant. I still don't really know what it means, but I do know that damage conversion is really good for Blade Vortex. I don't know why, people just say it's good. So, I mean, from when I read that, it makes me think, okay, so if you have a lot of physical damage, then you do more cold damage, right? That's what I'm thinking, right? So if I use these iron rings, I'm going to get a bit more physical damage, which then gets converted to cold damage. So the more physical damage I have, the more conversion I get, and then the more cold damage that I do. So at least that's how I think it works, but I may be entirely wrong. So certain things like this, it's not clear what it actually does. So you have to seek out the internet, right? I haven't bothered to see what it actually does myself. I just know that it works with particular builds. So like added as extra. I think that's something you will use on a Reef Blade Flurry character. So added as extra cold, added as a random element. Like certain things like stat sticks, for example. That sounds similar to damage conversion. The difference between those two I haven't looked into personally. I think I should, just to learn, just to learn whether or not it's actually good for this build. I guess the only way you'll find out is by looking at someone else's build guide, right? So, although, I mean, they say it's good, it works, right? Like they show you videos of it, it works. So, apparently with Blade Vortex, you need 2 stat sticks. That's apparently, I guess, the meta, if you'd call it that at the moment. 2 stat sticks make the build more effective. Yeah. Before I go to the Solaris Temple, might just have a quick break, grab a coffee, get some energy for the rest of the stream, and I'll be right back with you. And yeah, I guess we'll discuss something different. Probably what to do with this character, and where to branch after Elemental Overload, which should be interesting. Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. So we'll be right back. Put myself in the hideout so I don't die. Also, deaths on this character. I've had 1 death, and it was to the game crashing and freezing in a delve. So that was fun. Alright, we'll be right back in a moment. Alright, so we're back. Got my battery recharged a little bit. So we can start moving. Alright. Yeah, I find that with a build guide, right? So when you're following a build guide and every stash is full, right? Like you don't know what certain items do or whether they're going to be beneficial to your character. Or whether, say, something like, I don't know, something like, I don't know, something like this is good. You can put it on here and then see what average damage it does and then compare that with another item. But then there's no way to tell whether or not this value that you can see here is true, or whether something that you see on something like Path of Building is going to be the actual truth. So yeah, it gets tricky. Yeah, so we're gonna look at what to do with this character. Yeah, I suppose that portion of the video is already finished where we're talking about specifically whatchamacallits, how to start playing the video games and stuff. Yeah, fingers crossed this build works. One of the other builds that I've been really struggling to get going was a Dark Pact. Now, Dark Pact was one of the builds that was probably my favorite build when it was a thing, when you could literally go Dark Pact Berserker, shield charge crazily around the map and just like watch your life pool just stutter like crazy. But it was such a satisfying skill. Really, I didn't like it for the fact that it did so much damage. I liked it for the feel that it gave to the player, that massive like insane crit sound that you'd get when you jump in the middle of a pack of mobs and just proc that purple frickin' just explosion. Like, it was a lot of fun. I really miss Dark Pact Berserker. I think the first time I saw it was probably when it was either when Ziggy D was showing his Dark Pact Berserker build, and you could see that it had a lot of potential. Like all you have to do is scale life, right? Now, life is survivability and damage. So the more life you have, the more damage you do, and the more survivability you have. You just level the shit out of life, and then like you become super tanky and do a shit ton of damage. But they patched it, and it was probably my most favorite build at the time before it was patched. So the way that the developers intended for it to be used, from what most people believe, is that you need to use it as a minion skill, where you'd summon skeletons, you'd then shoot those skeletons with the Dark Pack, and then the more skeletons you have, the more times it's going to rebound off them and then do more damage to the boss. So it becomes an extremely good boss killer, but then an extremely lackluster clearer, because you need to first summon those skeletons, And then you need to cast a spell as well. So that's like boom, boom, summoning skeletons, right? Doing this, summoning all the skeletons around, and using your other skill to shoot at them, right? Then the next pack, summon, shoot. Next pack, summon, shoot. And it takes a while to summon all those skeletons. So personal preference though, I think it's a cool build. Like I think it'd probably be a bit of fun. I think there's one where you can cast while channeling Dark Pact Skeleton, where you can sort of do them both at once. But by adding in that cast while channeling, you lose your 6th link just for the skill optimization. You lose your 6th link that you would have had with Dark Pact. So what I did when I wanted to level my Dark Pact after the patch to see if it would still work. When leveling, it was really good. So I could probably show you what I did with it. Basically what I did, let's see if I can explain it to you actually. I went Scion, right? Slayer, Scion Slayer, right? And now I was thinking, okay, should I go Berserker, Slayer Berserker, or Slayer Crit? You can go one or the other. I think I was going for Slayer Berserker, just so that I could sustain it. So I went Slayer Berserker Scion, so Ascendant class, Ascendancy. Went for my Slayer first, so that I could get the Life Leech. It's not removed at full life, which I think is pretty hard to sustain with, which probably doesn't really matter, because half the time you're not at full life with that anyway, so whether you actually need that, you probably actually don't need it, because you're constantly losing life every time you cast. So I don't know, maybe from what I could see from YouTube videos, majority of people went for life regen rather than leech, which is a different route to take, but it feels awkward. It feels really awkward. You kill a pack, right? You go to your first pack, you attack it, your life goes down to 20%, and then you need to force yourself to move a little bit slower before you make your way to the next pack, because you know that when you cast again, you'll be dead by the time you do it. So you really have to scale your regen insanely if you want to optimize your clear speed. And when bossing, super awkward. You're not regenning while you're casting, so you probably are, but you're losing so much from Dark Pact that you have to run away from the boss, hide in a corner for a bit, wait for your health to regen, and then run back, kill the boss, do some damage, run away. It's just so sad that they patched it. It's so sad. I wish they could bring it back, but maybe just bring the damage down a bit. Like, don't completely just kill the skill. Like, make it so the players can still use it and have a bit of fun with it. Like, you buy all this gear, you optimize your character, you make it perfect, and then they patch it. And it's like, oh shit, man, now I can't use it. Yeah. Dark Day when they patched it, not fun at all. With my Scion, tried Leech. Really, really a lot of fun while leveling. You just go to a pack, shield charge, proc it, bang, pack's dead, next pack, bang, dead, next pack, bang, dead. It's just boom, boom, straight away. Destroy the pack, super easy. Um, and grab all these portal scrolls. What is that gear at? I haven't even been concentrating. So zoned out. I still do a bit more speed running. What was I saying? Stuff and things. Yeah, leveling really good. Smashing packs, smashing bosses. When you start to get to the higher levels, when you start pushing into maps, you die a lot. You die a shit ton. When trying to do self-cast, Dark Pack crit, Scion, Ascendancy mixed with Slayer, Berserker. When you're doing that, as soon as you hit maps, you're just dead, dead, dead all the time. So I tried to mix up the build, wasted a lot of orbs of regret, a lot of currency. All of my currency for that entire league was wasted on that character. Constantly respecking it. Tried Volpact. Obviously, after the nerf, mainly just, well, that was the main thing that killed it, was the Volpact. I think they changed the Ascendancy as well. They made it so that they changed Berserker a bit. They made it so that to even go Berserker with a Dark Pack build wouldn't be optimal. Even if you went, even if you still did Berserker with Volpact, wouldn't be optimal. Too far away from. I'm pretty sure it's entirely on the opposite side of the Berserker tree now. It was here. I think it was. I don't remember where it was last time. But basically, with my Scion character, started off with spell damage, worked my way up to the crit, spell crit, crit, worked my way down here, got myself file packed, bunch of leech, and then yeah, basically just looked for leech nodes. If I died too much, I'd go for more leech, wherever it would work with spells. There's not a whole lot of leech around. And for you to go Scion, you have to go all the way over here. Like, this is good. I got all of this. And even with all of this, you couldn't leech back enough to sustain the Dark Pact at all. It would have to be instant. Yeah, really disappointing. I really liked the instant AoE spell that you can just jump to packs. Like, it was just so basic and it just looked really awesome. It's sad that they did it. It really is. Really the next satisfying thing next to that, which I thought could be something that would make me feel better after the patch, was discharge. Getting my energy back. Yeah, discharge. So, shield charge. It's like a circular AoE spell. Pack to pack, proc it, or it procs automatically, so you don't even have to click it, you just shield charge, right? And if you scale your chance to crit, more chance to crit you have, because discharge is cast on crit. If you use Cosprey's Malice, it will crit when you hit an enemy. So if your chance to crit is super high, every time you touch an enemy, you'll crit. Therefore, you will cast the discharge when you touch an enemy. So your character explodes every time you touch an enemy, and you proc the discharge, and it looks amazing, and it feels really good. But if you take a look at Auto Bomber, and if you scale the shit out of that, your character's doing like those abyss green orbs shooting out of the what's the name for it? I forget names for things all the time. Why do I do that? I'm just gonna make it up. The green things shoot out of your hat. You got that hat thing. Shoot orbs out. You've got the belt, Bisco's leash. That shoots out these red things. So you've got all these different ways, all these different items that you can put on your character that automatically shoot out projectiles, right? Get enchants that allow you to shoot out projectiles as well. So all of these things happen automatically. You can use a bunch of them, and then you just run around the map and explode, and then enemies just die. I think I need more duration with this. That would actually help a lot. I can level 2. I'm gonna rush my way to Elemental Overload, and then use my lightning orb. Where are we? We've gone to a dead end. I never play this much when I'm talking, jeez. I tend to start drifting off when I'm not concentrating on the game. Let's concentrate on the game for a bit. Just killing blue packs. Skip everything else. I've noticed that killing rares is never really that worth it. Unless you've got something like a headhunter, of course. Or an item that grants you certain things for killing rares. But in terms of the loot that you get, from what I've seen, there isn't really... Like, it's more optimal just to kill packs. Go directly for the packs. It takes time to kill rares, and it's not always worth it. As you can see, I do a shit ton of damage to bosses. Blade Vortex is an extremely good skill to level for any spellcaster. It's a spell with a shit ton of damage. It's easy to proc. You can use it with the tabula. You can just run straight through the maps. And there's minimal effort required. So it's really good. I pretty much always level with Blade Vortex or Sunder. If I'm attack based, I go for a Sunder, and then Spellcaster, Blade Vortex. I'd say it beats, I'd say it definitely beats Spark. Spark in the beginning, you can't kill bosses with it. Good thing about Blade Vortex is, works on bosses, works in lab, works in every situation. And 2 more points will be there. Okay. Imperial Gardens. How far are we in? See if we can bring up a subject. That doesn't say. Oh, 1 hour. Okay. Yeah, I suppose we can bring up a subject. What should we talk about? Let's talk about things I wish I would have known when starting to play the game. Um, so, things I wish I could have known. I guess one of the main things that you need to be looking at or to know when playing this game is that reading items, knowing what they do, reading your gems, learning what they do, learning what they work with, learning what they're compatible with. Resistances are extremely important. At a certain point through the axe, you'll start to realize that resistances are extremely vital. Without them, you die instantly. With them, you feels like you're invincible, right? Within certain parts of maps. Right. So first, you start off, resistances don't really matter that much. You start playing, you're in Act 1, you find some basic gear, you find some life, you find some evasion. I mean, starting off, you want to know what the items do, what the stats do. If you find a rare item, is it good? I'll show you the next rare item that I find and just explain a bit about it. Or just any, really, just any item, just identify it. So, rarity of items found. Now, you'll find that a bit. It's good to get that starting off. If it's your first time playing, you're in solo self-found, which means what solo self-found is that you start the game in solo mode. You can't trade with other players. When you die, there's two modes for solo self-found. There's hardcore solo self-found, and there's standard solo self-found, which just solo self-found just means you're by yourself. You can't trade with players. You can't party with players. It's all by yourself. All the gear that you find is a gear that you have found and that no one has given to you. Some people like this type of playstyle. Other people, me personally, I prefer the standard trade league where, you find a really good item and you just really want to show it off to everyone, right? You want to price it at like 5 exalts or something. It feels really good. You trade it to someone, you discuss how you found it with that person. Like, that's the main reason why I went with Trade League. It wasn't because I wanted to min-max, see which items I could get off someone, like say, I'll give you, bargain with someone. Maybe you find a newbie player that doesn't know what an item is or doesn't know how good an item is, and they just think, oh, I'll just make it 4 chaos or whatever, when it's actually like 2 exalts or something, and they're not sure. Like they see max life compared to increased, and I mean they don't know whether max is better or increased is better, and they just sell it for a shitty amount of money. Or they don't know that a certain arrangement of stats on a jewel is actually going to be exceptionally good. So they just sell it for a small amount. But yeah, that's not what I'm about at all. I'm in Trade League, so I can say, oh hey look, I found this item, does anyone want it? Or if I'm looking for an item, I don't want to have to, like, I enjoy farming. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy farming. But if you're wasting a ridiculous amount of time trying to farm this particular item and you just can't get it, it's so much easier just to trade for it, right? But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish Trade League. I'm gonna get to a point where I feel like I've done what everything that needs to be done. I feel like I've got my character finished. I found a headhunter. I farmed a headhunter. I've smashed the game. I've killed Uber. You know, I've done all the major end of game bosses. I've finished my Atlas. Then I'll say, okay, you know what I'll do? I'll try out hardcore now. See how that goes. I think if I'm gonna do hardcore though, I'll probably do it solo self-found, just for a completely different experience. So going from Trade League, multiplayer, I guess you could say, not solo self-found, to just completely you're alone. And if you die, you're dead forever. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, so like if you find an item like this, right? You're a beginner, you find an item like this. You've got two damage mods. You've got physical damage and you've got spell damage. So you've got the basic physical, so that's with like weapons, right? With physical weapons, like this will work with Sunder and things like that. Bunch of damage. When you equip this, it's good to check how much damage you're doing by hovering over the skill that you use. And it will show you how much damage you do compared to the item that you already have equipped and whether it's better or not. It's a good way to check. So that does 85, put this on, does 99. So obviously this is better, right? This isn't always 100% clear though. You look at things in path of building, and it will show you more damage. So it's a bit weird. But yeah, that's another thing to look into. As far as what items do, they will tell you. It's good to experiment. A lot of different things in this game. Just experimenting, just seeing what it does. I remember, I mean, I got a. It's probably one of the lessons that you learn for yourself that you'll come to learn if you play the game. But it's good to know for a beginner. If you get an item that has something like multiple mods can be crafted on it or something like that, I'm pretty sure that if you alch it, you lose the special mod that's on that item. Let me just see if I've got one. I'm pretty sure I have it on a ring. Yeah, if it's magic, which just means blue, and rare is the yellow. If it's magic and you use one of these on it, or with alteration, it will re-roll the item. So if you're looking at can have multiple crafted mods, that's one of the jewels that you can get. Or if you have an Elrion jewel, which is one of the masters that you'll meet in the game, if you do his little side quest thing, you can level him up, and then eventually he'll trade you an item. It's called an Elrion ring. A lot of people suggest that you get that for leveling. For certain skills that cost you a lot of mana. When you, if you were to say, I think if you alch it, it'll also kill it. I think you can add another mod on it and then reheal it, I think. I might have to experiment with that to see if it'll actually destroy it, but never use a chaos or a alteration. It re-rolls the item, so you'll lose that extra mod on it, that prefix that grants you more mana or cost less to cast spells, things like that. But yeah, starting off, if you're planning, especially if you're planning on staying in the same league, I definitely recommend that you do master missions a lot, consistently do master missions. You'll rank those masters up, and then when you reach endgame, you can do a whole bunch of different things. So, for example, when you corrupt an item, you get an extra mod on it. Like if you have a rare chess piece and you use a Val orb on it, right? Which I don't want to do. But if you were to do this and it grants something, it gives you an extra mod, right? It either destroys the item or it'll give you another mod. So it can give you, there's potential of it giving you +1 to all socketed gems, right? If you were to do that, you get that mod. Sometimes you may not have already linked the item. When an item is corrupted, some people, like when I started off, I full qualityed an item, then I put a Val orb on it just for fun. I think it got an extra mod like +1 to socketed gems or something. And I thought, oh shit, I didn't 6-link it, so sell it, right? But the thing is, with corrupted items, you can use Varici, and you can still recolor 6-link and 6-socket. So if you're starting off and you end up corrupting an item and it grants an extra mod on it, always consider keeping it, because you can always use Varici towards endgame to turn it into a 6-linked item, which means all the sockets that you have linked on that item are linked together, and you can also change all the different colors for that item. What else is there? Something else really important I was going to mention. Just think about it for a second. Just turn in this. I don't know, what's a really good beginner tip that I really wanted to know before starting? Let's try and brainstorm a bit. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. I wonder if this is better than cold. I'll try that out for a bit. Just go back to Act 1. It helps when I do this. Just give me a moment. I'll just check some of my notes, see what needed to be said. I have no freaking idea. Okay. Well, we'll just continue on, and then it will come back to me. I guess I'll just go over a few other points. Vendoring particular items in patterns will grant you different sets of currency items. It's good to experiment with this, see what items you will get for certain recipes, because there are vendor recipes out there, and there's a lot provided um, by the how-to. There's an entire, well, I'm here because it's useful to look at, but I haven't actually looked at it myself. There is a trade panel. I mean, not a trade, a how-to section. Where is it? Options, right? That's challenges. Input. Help panel. That symbol. Okay. So there's a crazy awesome help panel that shows you how to do everything. And if you're a new player, definitely recommend going through this rather than going directly to a build guide on YouTube. Trust me, because by the time you finish with that build guide and you start branching off to do your character, you will be making mistakes everywhere. So definitely recommend looking at this. This will show you basically the foundation. This is the foundation of your entire building before you build it. If you start shooting for the stars, then your building will collapse. So don't do that. I did that and now I'm starting again from the foundation because I haven't taken a single look at this help panel at all. There's probably a lot of different things in here that I never read and not sure about. But I'll try to see if I can help you guys on certain things that I wish I really knew before starting the game, and things that I've picked off from other people in the YouTube community and streaming community. Okay. So I was trying to think of what I was gonna say. Oh well. Oh yeah, talking to NPCs, you don't need to do it. So don't do it. Well, you don't particularly, if they have a exclamation mark above their head, then you can do it. Certain parts of the game don't require you to do it. Other parts do. To save time, like we're speaking to Nico at the start of the very beginning of the game. Not talking to him won't stop him from appearing in future instances of the game. What else are we looking at? Loot filters. Always great to get yourself a loot filter. You can, if you go to the NeverSync website, you can make a loot filter for yourself. It is way better than using this. Well, in my opinion. This shows you everything though. If you wanted everything, you just keep it as default. We're going to run back here and see. So you get all the white items. You may get some items that you don't want to pick up. You can completely customize it, add your own sounds, add, like there's Demi has one that he provided to players, which, oh, that didn't even make a sound. But yeah, if you press Alt on your keyboard, it'll show you items that are hidden by your loot filter. If you press Z, it'll remove it entirely, so you won't even be able to see the item. If I drop this on the ground, for example, press Z, everything's hidden. Right, you press again, comes back. If it's hidden by your lead filter like this, press Alt to bring it back. If you hold Alt, you can see the items. And yeah, you pretty much, it's all it is really is just putting the files that you've taken from the website, putting that into the folder that's so if we look at this folder here, you can go show folder. It'll take you directly to where you need to put the files into. So when you download it from the website, you literally just take that download, put it in the show folder, and then relaunch Path of Exile, and you'll be ready to go with your lit filter. Demi provided one, which is based off Diablo. Really nice filter. I've got it on right now. Doesn't show certain things like scrolls of wisdom. I might have to change it, customize it a bit. But I really like the sounds that it has with it. Like it's got the custom Diablo themed sounds. I want to keep that. Let's go here. Yeah, so it makes that sound instead of, take it. This is my custom one instead of that. So my custom one has, my custom one that I made for myself is Borderlands 2 themed. So for chromatics, green, as you get higher and higher and find better items, it goes to, from green, so it goes white, green, yellow, orange, purple. You've got your blue for sort of in between for cards and things like that. So mine's more Borderlands 2 themed. You can also add stars on your map. So when you're doing like clearing and stuff like that, you can see that there's an icon there, and then you know that there's a good item there. Even if you don't have any volume turned on your PC, you know that there's that item there that you can run to and get, which is really useful. I was trying to touch a point that was really important, but I forgot it and I can't remember it. But it was really important for new players. Just before I was going to mention that corrupting items, you can still 6-link them. What are we looking at here? Oh, we'll get to it. I'll definitely remember it, it'll just take time. Docs. One of also the other things, if you go on the PoE website, you can see there's a passives page. You go passives. So by doing /passives, it shows you all the current passive skills from quests that you have gotten. On the PoE website, it will give you a rundown. It will give you a rundown of. If you go type in passives on the PoE website, it will give you a page of where it'll show you all the different passives. Don't know why it didn't explode just now. Yeah, it'll give you a list of all the different passives that you gain in the game. And if that matches up with what you type in here, then you know that you've gotten every point. You don't need to go back to anything. But another way to check is if you go Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, as long as everything here is grayed out, except for the labyrinth, of course, because that's always going to be highlighted. If all of this is grayed out, you know that you've completed everything in that act, and there's nothing more to do. Unless you haven't spoken to an NPC to activate a quest yet. But normally, if all that's grey, you know everything's completed. You don't need to do that act again unless you need to farm an item. Different areas of Path of Exile will have different items that you can farm. If you Google the actual area, so if you type in the climb, so if you go on Google, type in the climb PoE, I'll do it right now. So if you type in on Google the climb PoE, it'll take you to the climb official Path of Exile wiki. On that, it'll show you that particular items can be farmed from that particular area. So you've got the Fletcher card. So the Fletcher card is an item that drops in the climb, and it will give you the drill neck. It'll give you a corrupted drill neck bow, which I think is guaranteed not to be bricked. And basically what a bricked item means is that when you use a Val orb on them, which is what that red orb that I was on before, if you use that on an item, bricked just basically means it destroys that item. So if it's a rare item, for Tabula for example, it'll turn it into a rare with shitty mods on it, and the links will be unlinked. There'll be like one socket left. So you've pretty much killed the item. You've defeated the purpose of the Tabula, right? If I was to corrupt this now, different things that can happen. If we go back to our just hideout or whatever, show you a chest. So if I was to do this, grab this and slam it on that, I will do it when I find another Tabula, by the way, but right now I need it. So, and I don't want to risk losing it, because yeah, anything you Val will kill it basically. Never Val helmets. That's something I only just learnt today. I've been playing the game for like a year and a half. Never Val helmets. Apparently, it's not as beneficial to Val helmets because you won't really gain a lot from it. It's more beneficial to Val, I'd say, in my personal opinion, chest pieces. You can get +1 socketed gems, sell it for a large amount, and whoever's buying it can just do Varici 6 socket if they wanted to. So if I was, like I was saying, if I was to Val that item, many different things can happen. It can either gain a mod, it can gain many different types of mods. So you can gain +1 elemental resistances, +1 socketed gems, which is the one that you really want. It's probably the highest demanded ones. The most I've gotten in 2 years of voling these things is +1 or 2, I think it was +1 in duration gems or something. So that was really good for leveling Blade Vortex, for example, because you could use it at level 1. And I'm pretty sure that because Blade Vortex, yeah, it says duration right there on the node. on the jewel there, it then works with that particular prefix. So then it scales that particular jewel. When you hover over it as well, it'll be +1. So that's how you know it's worked. Where am I going? I'm sort of drifting off. I totally just just ran off in a different direction. Thinking too much. Not multitasking here. Where are we going? Unlock scepter. Okay, cool. So just run this way. So I guess I'll just throw away a few small tips that I can remember at the moment, but aren't really that important, I guess, just because I can't think of too many super important ones at the moment. If I remember what I was just about to say. What I'm thinking about. What was I even going to say? I can't even remember. Yay! There's just so much of this game that I can't remember. Oh, portals, man. Portals. They've been giving me the shits lately. So, I'll just hover over random shit and talk about it. So, portals. I've found that there's a gem. So, there's a gem that you can get in the game. It's called a portal. It's just a portal gem. It's a white gem. You can use it on any socket, any colored socket you like. So, it can go on red, green, blue. You can put it on any of those items. This one, I've got a portal right here. So, it can go on anything. Put it here, here, here. Normally what I like to do is put it here, put a faster casting here, maybe a less duration or something. I don't know, something like that to make it cast faster, right? Quality, when you quality it as well, it increases the cast time. So if you make it 20 quality, it will go to max quality. So you can do that with gem cutters prisms, which is a currency item that you can find in the game. So when you apply that to this, it makes quality better. The disadvantage though with this jewel, or gem, if an enemy touches you, you can't cast it. It interrupts the cast. So right now it's super slow, right? Because I'm using it like, just casually. See how I didn't cast that time? So those enemies were touching me. They were shooting a projectile at me while I was doing it, right? I tried to cast it just now. Nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. Right, so if you're in a shit situation, right? You run into a pack and you're like, fuck, I gotta get out of here, right? And so you hit your portal, right? And then like fucking nothing happens, right? So then like you're dead. Like if I try to, I'll run up to these guys, right? Try to proc it. Well, they didn't hit me that time, but if they touch you, it interrupts it. Even though your character isn't getting stunned or anything, it interrupts it. So what's better is if you just go bang, bang, right? It's instant. It's a lot faster than pressing portal, right? You get to a pack, go to your next pack, procking portal now, nothing happened, right? About to die actually. Got out of there, but see, nothing happened. I could have died just now. I could have easily just died straight away. So just going boom, boom, a lot faster, you can get out of there. Works every time, even if you're being attacked by a mob. What else do we look at? putting move only on your left click means that you can hold down left click. Majority of the time you'll be holding down on left click the entire time you play Path of Exile. So you have your finger held down the entire time you play. You can also move by just clicking. It'll take you to wherever you had clicked. So some people move around like this and they just click and they constantly click like this and just click. Click here, go there, click there, click there, click there. Before they reach their destination, they click another time. I prefer to hold down. I think a lot of people do. Oh, I can get my elemental overlay now. I need to get the my gem. Let's go buy one. Now with certain characters, you can buy certain gems. So for Slayer, which is Duelist, you will be offered certain gems. From this particular dude, if you complete his quest, he's in Act 3 Library. If you finish his quest, he will grant you certain gems that can be given to you regardless of what class you are. So if you're thinking of trading with someone, a lot of people like to trade gems for like an Alch or a Chaos sometimes, especially at the start of the league. You don't want to spend that much on a gem. So always be sure to check this dude out. He will give you items. Let me just sort this out. He will give you jewels that you think that you may not be able to get, but you can, without having to trade. Which is something I found out a lot later on. Although I wish that someone told me. Let's see, because the wiki does not tell you this. The wiki does not tell you. What are we gonna do? I think we're gonna do a Orb of Storms increased duration, so the orb lasts longer, and we need another red. So life gain on hit. No, that doesn't work actually. I'll just leave it for now. Probably go with something like faster casting. We don't have the links for it. I might actually link this. Yeah, we can do lab now. I think we should be able to do lab. Oh yeah, big pointers. I just remembered. Massive tips. So these are things that I had to research. I had to actually find this out the last few weeks ago, but I've been playing the game for like a couple of years. I never knew this until a few weeks ago. So basically, with respecking certain things like that, respecking abilities, Um, when you are trying to refund from a particular character, um, if you're, say, if you path this way a bit, um, sometimes, like if you're going with, say, like a ascendant, where you're going like Templar, and you're doing Slayer as well, right? So if you're on Templar and you do, say, I don't know, these points here, for example, and then you're also doing like you're doing a Reeve Blade Flurry. So you take all these nodes, you do this, you work your way down to like disemboweling, and then you're also doing like a Slayer where you start Slayer, or actually no, you can't do that, but you start here and you go and crit or something. So like if you wanted to, say, refund this and then start somewhere else, you may have to actually refund all of the points, I've noticed. It's hard to explain because I guess it's sort of like a bug, but you have to like refund all those points first. And for certain ascendancies, before you can actually refund the ascendancies, you have to refund points back to the start of the Templar again. I noticed that I wasn't able to refund my ascendancy points before I actually refunded all the way back here to the beginning of the Templar starting area, which was a bit strange because I only wanted to refund a few. But yeah, good starting tip is everything is refundable, everything. So also the bandit quest rewards. So I had to do some research on this before I actually found out that you can do it. But you can, if you choose a Lyra for example, and then you find out that your build really, you really think, oh yeah, I think the 2 skill points would have been better than a Lyra. I've maxed out my character level 100, 2 skill points would have been a hell of a lot better than a bit of crit mana regen. By the way, the bandit quest is this one here. I killed a Lyra. With Blade Vortex, you focus on crit, and I needed some LA resistances, so I went for Lyra. A lot of people go for the 2 skill points majority of the time. That would be a safe bet if you're not sure who to choose, because basically this is, when you're starting off playing Path of Exile, this is one of the decisions that make it makes it hard to know what to do, because there's a lot of build guides out there that don't tell you which bandit to choose. So a lot of the time 2 skill points, regardless of whatever build you're doing, is normally a safe bet. If you're doing crit, spellcaster, Alir is really good. If you're doing cyclone, Kraton's really good. If you're doing righteous fire, Oak is really good, but 2 skill points, from what I've seen with guides out there, Juggernaut, if you're doing a Juggernaut righteous fire character, the 2 skill points is better than having the Oak. That's just what I've seen. I don't question it, I just look at the majority. So from what I can see, 1 regen, you can get a few more life nodes. From that, you can probably get another jewel socket. With that jewel socket, you can put something that's worth like 5 exalts in there or something. So a lot of people that scale their character unbelievably high will go for this 2 skill points. I think I'm sort of tediously doing content here, so while I'm explaining things, so I wonder if I had that portal ready. I think it despawned. Alright, we'll reset the instance. Resetting instances, I think this is what I was going to actually explain. So the way to reset an area, this is something that they don't really explain to you at all. you can reset areas. You don't just do them once. You can farm areas for an infinite amount of times. If you hold down the control key on your keyboard, click the entrance to an area. It doesn't work on all areas, so some areas it may not work on. You may have to go a few sections back before you can, or a few sections forward. Certain areas they don't let you do it for some reason. Some areas they do, maybe because the area is too small or there's no need for it. So you just hold control, click, new instance. That resets the instance. So if you did something that I did just now, like finish an area, if you finish an area, screw up with your portal, and you have to go back and do it again, you can reset it so that you don't waste experience by just running through an area that has no enemies in it. What was I going up to? Oh yeah, I got my I was gonna I did 6 link it. And I did link it, cool. So we've got that. We're not using this because that's silly. The good thing about the portal though, has infinite uses. Use it for an infinite amount of time, but it's less practical. It's less practical in situations where you need to get out and you don't want to get stunned, or you're in the center of a pack of monsters and you need to leave. But yeah, I've already explained that, so that's fine. Blue packs will grant you more experience, so they're always worth killing. What else we should mention here? A lot of it really is just you learning how to play the game. Reading things, understanding how things work, testing things, seeing if, say, this jewel actually helps your character summon Holy Relic, or whether it's more for a minion build, you know what I mean? So, certain things work, certain things don't. Certain jewels will be better in different situations. One of the things you'll learn over time is that mixing two particular perk points or particular skills on the tree together, if you use an ability with that, it'll grant you more damage. So you see that procced elemental overload, deal more elemental damage. So then that really helps for bosses, and you deal more damage. What else are we looking at? What else we can take a peek at? Comparing gear and upgrading gear, it's a massive thing. Always look at where your gear can be improved. There's probably been a ridiculous amount of instances by now where I can actually upgrade these iron rings to something else, but I've just been selling those rings. I definitely should be doing that. So let's teach as we play now for a bit, rather than throwing darts in the dark. MTXs. This is another dart in the dark, but I can't see anything else that's happening on screen at the moment. MTXs, you do not have to purchase them. It is not a requirement. stash tabs, to be honest, you're not really given enough. If you were to play as many characters as I have, you're not given a suitable amount for the amount of storage that you get, the amount of items that you're going to be picking up, especially if you play the game for a long period of time. You may want to buy a few stash tabs. That's about it. You don't need MTXs to make your character look better. It won't change your character's performance at all. Although I'd say that the only thing that benefits you from microtransactions is the fact that when selling items. So when you have stash tabs and you've purchased stash tabs, the advantage that it grants you is that, let me just see, you'll have more items to sell at any given time. Whether there's restrictions on how or when players can sell items, I'm not entirely sure. I have seen patterns. I have seen that in certain instances my sell rate goes up or down at particular times. So it's a bit random, it's a bit weird. For me personally, I've seen that my if I start selling something, or whenever I sell something, you've noticed that in this video actually, the only sales I've gotten have all been at the same time, which is something that I see way too often, extremely all the time. So I don't know if GGG have worked out a way to make it so that if you're selling a shit ton of items at the same time, like if you say you have like 50 stash tabs for example, and you're selling like 250 items at the same time, right? You'd think that would grant you an advantage over other players, right? Because they're not selling as much and they don't have as many stash tabs to sell those items, because you can sell items by buying a stash tab to be used to sell items, rather than, say, actually going up to a player and saying, hey, do you want to buy this item from me, right? You don't have to spend money to do that. But it helps to have, in terms of for a player that is not sure what to do, you don't need to buy anything at all. This game is free. You don't need a thing. You just need that one tab. I've seen streamers that still have just that one tab, and they just destroy any other item that they are not going to use, and that's it. They just destroy it. They get rid of it. They sell it. They turn it into currency. They put that currency in their tab, and that's it. If you're on solo self-found, you play a shit ton of... If you're on solo self-found, right, and you want to play a lot of characters, it's probably going to be difficult to sustain space in your stash tabs if you enjoy making a lot of characters and keeping the gear that you've made on those characters. There normally isn't enough space in this section of the character screen. So if you do happen to be that type of person, I'd probably recommend straight up buying the largest stash tab you can, and only one of them. and then using it for both selling and stashing. Let's see if it's here actually. It's probably all the information I can provide in this video, but I'll come back with another one that's a bit more amped up. It's just that it's quite late and I'm very tired. But yeah, stash tabs. If you get the, I think it's a premium one. Yeah, so it's a quad. So more for less money. Pretty sure it is. You can do the comparison if you want, but yeah, stash tabs, 150 for the quad, 40 for a premium. So with this you get 48. Yeah, this costs a little bit more in the long run. Yeah, probably just get one of those if you have to. Otherwise, delete items. So yeah, it's not a requirement. You play the game for years without even buying a stash tab. Yeah, usually without talking, I'd be in Act 7, 8 right now. So talking has slowed me down a lot, and I haven't been upgrading my items like this. Yeah, super tired. Voice is killing me. Throat is killing me from my voice. So I think I'm going to end it right about now, and probably take off either again on this weekend or tomorrow afternoon if I have the energy for it. Right now I'm just absolutely exhausted. But yeah, hopefully some of this information that I've given you was informative. You'll probably want the video on 2x because I am quite tired, and have stretched it out quite a bit. So there's been moments where I haven't been saying anything. So you might want to put it on 2x. You'll still probably get all the information you need. Feel free to join this broadcast. If you tuned in for the first one, I'll be posting statuses on Twitter as to when I will be streaming. And be sure to type questions in the chat. We'll definitely be looking at the atlas, the complexity of it. I'll probably explain this entire ridiculously complicated system in my next video. So the things we're going to be looking at is what these blobs are, how to move them, how to shape them, why you should shape them into particular shapes around the map, why should you make a ring around the whole map, why, what's the difference between these two separate blobs, like shaper, holder, what all these different symbols mean, how maps connect, how to make it so that you can make other maps drop a certain map, so sustain they call it, how to sustain maps, how that all works, how to progress through maps. When you get into this whole system, it's insane. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to move these shapes. You don't know, because even when experimenting with it, it's difficult. So yeah, I'll be going through this a bit, sharing with you what I know and explaining it in a beginner-friendly way so that anyone should be able to understand it if you haven't played the game before. So I'll be explaining that in future videos when I have the energy to do so. But for now, we're going to cut the video here. And thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.